Headed into this week, we're now joined by NFL agent Drew Pittman on Sikkim 365 and 365 Sports. And Drew has been with us and on the air before. He has Logan Hall, hell of a player out of the University of Houston, played locally at Belton High School, among others as well. Drew, thanks for your time with Craig, Paul, and David Smoak. Is this NFL Combine story, is this going to get worse before it gets better? Is it as bad as it seems, or is it just kind of like posturing right now?
Yeah. Hey, first of all, it's good to be with you guys. I think, I don't know that bad is the way to describe it. I think what's going on here is there's been some issues with the Combine for years, and they really haven't been addressed. And, you know, there's all kinds of things coming out right now. Some of it seems like it's going to be really bad. Mike Florio at Pro Football Talk wrote something that sounded very scathing. The NFL has taken advantage of players. I think there are some things that need to get fixed. You know, when the NFL created the NFL channel and then they started televising these events and all the workouts and everything, they started creating cash flow and revenue from that. And so anytime somebody is producing content, the people who are involved usually get compensated for that. You know, I think that's one issue. I think another issue is this whole, I think everybody's just sick of the pandemic and everything that it's creating. And of course, the people at National Football Scouting in Indianapolis, they're trying to keep people safe, and they don't want a bunch of players coming up there and they're becoming an outbreak. And even though it seems as though that COVID is kind of morphing into maybe, in many cases, a less fatal type of virus, they still have to be careful. And so all of these things come into play. I saw something that was put out. Adam Schefter put it out. Smoak, I sent it to you.
Yes, sir.
Where there's kind of it's not really a boycott, maybe as much as some agents, not all, are instructing their players to not work out, to go and to participate in interviews and medical. And of course, originally, the Combine was created so that teams could know what they were really getting from a medical standpoint. And it's gone from there. And so, you know, my theory has always been, you know, I work for my players. I give them good advice based on 32 years of experience and many hours working with teams and understanding what teams are looking for. But the player has to do what he feels like is best for him. And so if a player goes to the Combine and chooses not to work out, which we all know has happened quite often, that's the player's choice. And that should be his choice, and that's fine. If a player goes and he works out and he doesn't work out as well as he hoped, he has another chance to work out again at his pro day. And so, again, everybody's got to make the decision that's best for them. And we'll see. That's a long-winded answer to, is this going to get better or worse? But we'll see what happens. I think everything is kind of starting to sort itself out. You know, years ago, there was no free agency, and it wasn't really fair for the players. And so it took some drastic measures in order to get free agency to be in place, which, you know, some fans don't like because they like their guys to be at their team forever. But, you know, if they were the ones that were in the marketplace, they would want to be able to be paid fairly and be able to have some leverage. And so I think it could be kind of moving towards something like that. Again, for me, I think the biggest thing is the NFL is creating a lot of revenue, a lot of television revenue from these guys going and working out and them televising it, and none of them are getting compensated for it. And so that's not really fair.
It's also parts of it is also, isn't it? The scheduling makes it more difficult on them to kind of fit all this stuff into the short time, especially, the wide receivers work out on 8A. It's not like you pick a time to go work out and sign up on the calendar that you've got 11:30 on Thursday. If you're a wide receiver, you're just going in the order that they tell you, and you have to fit everything else in around that.
Correct. And they have adjusted the schedules over the course of the years. It used to be that they would go and the players would do the Cybex test in the morning, which is a very tiring test on your legs, and then they'd go run their 40s in the afternoon. Well, they started figuring out that they weren't really getting good and accurate information that way, and so they spread it out a little bit. I think one of the other big issues is that a guy goes in and let's say he had a shoulder sprain during the season, and then he goes to the combine, and he gets there, and every single NFL team's doctor puts him through their own medical test, and so they're pulling and yanking on this guy's arm for maybe literally 18 hours. Guys have been known to have to be in the medical for that long. And then they're getting scans, and they're getting, they'll get back to the hotel at 2 a.m. and they'll have to get up at 6 a.m. Well, they're really not getting the best view of who that player is if they schedule it like that. So those are some of the issues that they're trying to work out. And Jeff Foster, who runs the National Invitation Camp, National Football Scouting, he's awesome, and he's done a great job since he's taken over years ago. But there are just a number of factors that he has to play in, and they don't want to keep every player there for 5 days. So it was 3 days. It became 4 days, and so they're trying to work things out. And there's always going to be something that doesn't work quite the way it's supposed to or the way people want it to. So I think it's going to be very fluid, Smoak.
Drew, how much difference is there for an NFL scout seeing, let's say, Terrell Bernard in Indianapolis in a combine setting versus seeing him a couple weeks later in Waco in a pro day setting? I mean, is there that much of a difference for these scouts in particular?
I think if you talk to scouts, they feel like every single exposure they have to a player is important. Some players choose not to go to all-star games. And some players really don't need to go to an all-star game. I've got Ronnie Rivers, who was a 5-year starter at Fresno State. And, my thing was, if you don't know who he is by now, then you shouldn't be a scout. But their feeling is every exposure they get to him, every setting they see him in, whether it's walking through the hotel, whether it's, how they treat the training staff at the all-star game, every single exposure they have, they feel like gives them a better view of the player. Now, we have this joke that we've always said, it's NFL overkill. And so, if a guy goes and he runs and he works out at the combine and he does a great job and he hits the numbers that he feels like are his best numbers, then there's no reason for him to do that again at his pro day. And I've had scouts look at me and go, "Why isn't your guy running?" And I'm like, "He just ran 4.34. What else do you want to see?" And it's just kind of the give and take in this profession. And these guys are making big decisions, and the scouts are trying to keep their job. And so sometimes there's just differing factors that will make one guy want to see one thing and another guy want to see something else. And in the end, the player and the agent as his advisor have to make good, solid decisions. And that's why it's important to have somebody with a lot of experience and can guide you the right way.
I can't remember who wrote the book, but there was a book about the NFL Combine. Drew, did you read it called Meat Market or something like that?
Was Bruce Feldman.
Was it Feldman?
Oh boy,
yeah.
Boy, you're asking me to go to the Wayback Machine.
Yeah.
I can't remember how long ago that was, but it was a long time ago. And I think my recollection is there were a lot of things that aren't being done that way anymore. I mean, Smoak, I've been doing this 32 years, and so I've seen a lot of changes over the years, and most of them really great changes. So, it's different. They used to parade these guys around in shorts and without shirts.
Yeah.
Obviously, teams want to see body type, and it's important to see what they look like and see how they run, and then sit down with them and talk to them and see how they communicate, see how they get along. And every team is trying to fit guys into not only their team with the players' abilities, but also fit them into their culture.
Yeah.
And so it's really important. And it's funny. I was talking to somebody earlier today about this whole should they go, should they not? They're not getting paid to go, spend 4 days working out. And it's like you wouldn't really ask a group of accounting majors to go to a company and work for 4 or 5 days and give them work product without paying them. But again, these guys they're auditioning, and probably look at the world of acting. They go and audition and do the same types of things for their industry. And so, I think you can make an argument both ways that, some things should be done away with at the combine, and some things are probably pretty important for a team. And, my thing for my clients is I always advise them to do everything you can to show a team how you can be a good fit with them, how you're going to be a good teammate, how you're going to be a good employee, how you're going to be somebody who cares about winning and pulling in the same direction as everybody else, and show them that you have character and work ethic and all those things. And you invest into your business, and that's what these players are. That they're their own business, and so they're investing into their business.
Drew, how much of a stress or how much of a grind are the interviews? You hear about the physical part of it and all the stuff you were talking about with the doctors and all that. How much is that, whether it's a battering ram? That may be a volatile word. I shouldn't use that, but one after another with different teams that you have to meet with as players?
Yeah, it depends on how they're set up. There are some formal interviews. Every team gets to have 30 formal interviews, and so they schedule those in advance. A player gets to the combine and he's given a card, and it shows when his interviews are and who it's with. And then they have informal interviews where they're kind of going table to table, and they did this at the Senior Bowl as well. They're going table to table, and Tuesday night at the Senior Bowl they had 15 or 16 teams, and Thursday night they had the other 16 teams. And it's like speed dating. You sit down and they start firing questions at you because they only have 15 minutes. But that's 4 hours of kind of answering a lot of the same questions. So it all kind of starts to run together. And this is after a full day of training and practice and meetings and trying to learn a new system. And so it can be very grueling. I would also say it depends a lot on the player's personality. Some players are just gregarious and outgoing, and they'll sit down and talk to you forever and enjoy the heck out of it. Other players are more reserved. They probably, I think in my own home, I would love doing that because I love talking to people. I love meeting people, and I'd be asking them questions. Smoak, my wife Lane,
Yep.
And she would hate it. She would, like, after 3, she might just walk out. So it just depends on personalities.
Now, you want to ask about Logan Hall?
Go right ahead.
Logan Hall, obviously we saw him at Belton. He was a very high-level, disruptive player, and he's grown into this now possible first-round pick. It depends on who you read, and I know a lot of that is speculation right now. Logan Hall and the kind of attention that, Drew, he seems to be getting.
Getting a lot of attention and well-deserved, I would say. And I'll tell you this, too, and Smoak, me, and the kind of players that I've represented over the 32 years. I like to work with good guys. I like to work with guys who are high-quality human beings And I get kind of choked up talking about Logan because he is such an outstanding human being, and he's a great football player. And I think all of those things are going to play into whoever takes him, and wherever they take him, they're going to get a great football player. They're going to get a highly competitive, first-class human being who's going to do great things in the locker room. He's going to do great things in their community. He's going to be well-liked by his teammates. He's going to be well-liked by the coaching staff and the support staff. And he's going to be an excellent football player. And he's getting a lot of publicity and a lot of press. And again, like I say, very well-deserved. He's an incredibly athletic. He's been gifted physically with all kinds of tools and length and explosiveness and heavy hands, and he's incredibly coachable. We had a defensive line camp down in Florida with Brian Cox, who's getting ready to be back in the NFL, but was a Super Bowl player and a Super Bowl coach and all pro player. And Brian was like, man, this guy's special. And Brian Jordan, BT Jordan, who's from Houston and now is the defensive line coach at Michigan State, worked with him. And, he's got all kinds of skills, and he's got, again, a high motor. He's got great competitiveness. He's a first-class human being and great family. I just love them all. And so whoever gets him, and you look at these mock drafts, and he could go in the first round, he could go in the second round, but whoever gets him is going to get an outstanding football player, an outstanding human being.
Drew, do you feel like with players having a bit more freedom at the college level nowadays, whether it was the one-time transfer rule, the transfer portal, name, image, likeness, so we know that some guys are already making money, does that at all change the dynamic, or could lead to changing the dynamic with players coming out of college and dealing with them? And how do agents kind of see some of the changes that have occurred at the college football level, and how do they view that?
Yeah, I think it's going to change. Hopefully, in many regards, it makes them better prepared to make a good decision about who's going to guide them in their career, because they've already had to go through getting somebody to guide them, whether it's in their NIL, managing their NIL opportunities, or there's guys I met with some financial guys who they're already working with college players managing their finances, because these guys are making tons of money doing NIL deals, which, quite frankly, I'm all for. I'm not that involved in the NIL world from a standpoint of, I feel like marketing people should do marketing, and investment people should do investments, and I'm a football guy who's going to help them have the most successful career and set them up for the most successful post-career that they can have. But they're getting more exposure to this, and probably some of them making some bad decisions. You talk to college coaches, and they're probably the best people to talk to about, what the transfer portal's really doing. But, it's free agency in college football. And so, again, hopefully they're learning, and they're learning how to pick somebody based on qualifications versus who's going to throw the most stuff at them. And so from my standpoint, and I can only speak for myself and my partners at Shark Sports Management, but we feel like a better educated player on the reality of what they're going into is going to be better suited to have success, because they're going to really learn how to be better businessmen and understand that, like I said earlier, they are their own business. And so they're going to be better suited for that, hopefully. And maybe sometimes, as we all know, we learn a lot by making mistakes. So maybe some of them make some mistakes, but hopefully in the long run, it becomes somewhat beneficial to them long term.
Hey, Drew, thank you for all the explanation on what really is going on right now with the Combine, also with Logan Hall, and what Craig's question about college football, the way it's changed. Appreciate your time. Good luck with your clients. And you're right, the ones you have always are incredibly good people along with being hellacious football players. Thanks for your time.
Hey, I really appreciate it, guys. Take care.
Drew Pittman, NFL agent, with us on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. When we come back, you got something?
Well, I mean, it's 52. Do you want us to keep it here?
We need
real quick deal, and then a couple of notes to wrap up the 3 o'clock hour. Scott Drew early on in the 4 o'clock
next
hour. Oh, John Fanta. I'll have to text him, tell him we're running late. Sorry about that. This is Sikkim 365 Radio.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street. Look, on Friday last week, they had the creators of Happy Dad in there. They had 100 cases. They sold out in like less than 2 hours.